the Royal Rumble, I was invited out to Indianapolis to try out an early build of WWE 2K25, therefore in this video I'm going to go over everything that I played, as well as show off new footage of all the new content, including the epic new Brawl areas, the game-changing third-person camera and the 2K showcase, as well as giving you the lowdown on all the updates and changes to gameplay. Before we get into any of that though, I'll be continuing to post new gameplay all the way up to release, so if you want to be alerted to that, please do hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications for future videos. So let's talk WWE 2K25, as I was invited out to Indianapolis by 2K to try out a 2K25 preview build ahead of the Royal Rumble. As this was a preview build, it was limited in what was available, as not all of the modes and match types were included. This was more of a demo build that was limited to around 20 superstars, a handful of match types and select matches from the 2K showcase. Of the superstars included in this build, 8 of them were brand new, as the build included the debut of the Bloodline's Jacob Fatu, the returning Naomi, and new NXT stars Kalani Jordan, Ethan Page and Sol Ruka, while new legends seen the addition of the Wild Samoans with Afa and Sika, along with the return of fellow Hall of Famer Alundra Blaze, who now has a new model and an updated entrance. Now, there's quite a lot of info to get through, but I want to start by highlighting some of this year's new features, starting with the addition of a new third-person camera system, as 2K have followed up last year's ramp camera with a new third-person option which is available to use in entrances as well as matches. During entrances, the third-person camera can be enabled by pressing Y on Xbox or triangle if you're on PlayStation, and this will see the camera placed behind the player, where you can then freely move it around using the right thumbstick to change the angle and zoom in and out using the triggers. Having this ability completely changes the entrance, as it gives you the freedom to view it from any angle, which is really cool to play around with, and something that I think for creators in the community will prove to be extremely popular, as it allows you to take screenshots of creations from the perfect angle. In addition to the third-person camera, the developers have also included a new Spectate Camera, which when selected will allow you to cycle through various preset camera angles, similar to what we're used to seeing in the highlight reel, with these angles allowing you to take in the entrance from various points throughout the arena. Switching over to gameplay, the third-person camera is also available during matches, as at any point you can pause the game and switch from the regular broadcast view to third person, which gives the match a completely fresh feeling, as you can move the camera around with the right stick and take in the action from the angle of your choice. Because the camera is controlled using the right stick, playing in third person does require an additional button press, as you need to hold down the right trigger to perform actions that use the stick, such as pinfalls. Otherwise, if you just press the stick, it'll only move the camera. From using the third person camera in regular matches, I thought it was quite refreshing, though I don't know if this is something that I would stick to long term, though one area it really comes in useful, and that I think I'll always use it, is for backstage brawls. So let's talk backstage brawls, or just brawls as they're referred to in 2K25, as brawls are no longer limited to the backstage area, as 2K25 includes 2 completely new areas to brawl in, with these being one of the game's standout new features. Taking a look at the new areas, the first of them is the NXT parking lot, which if you watch NXT, you know this one makes a lot of sense, as so much happens here, and now that's something that you can recreate in 2K25. The best thing about the parking lot is that there's so much that you can actually do here, as the area is packed full of things that you can interact with a full range of weapons also available, as the area is littered with steel chairs, tables, ladders, kendo sticks, and different variations of trash cans, along with new weapons like the trash can lid and the parking cone. As you explore the area, you'll notice that there's some climbable spots that you can interact with the main one that will draw your attention being the scaffold, as players can climb the ladder to get on top and then continue to brawl. Taking things to the extreme, just below the scaffold is a ready-made spot that you can interact with, as the developers have set up 4 chairs that hold a pane of glass which you can use in the same way as a table and put your opponent through. Also included in the parking lot is a fully interactive ambulance like the one from the ambulance match, which you can open the doors and throw your opponent inside. Moving over to the second new Brawl arena, 2K25 also includes the WWE Archives, which is a warehouse that's packed full of items from WWE's past and present. The archives include a host of recognisable items, with these ranging from smaller things like superstar cutouts or the gravestone that was used in Buried Alive matches, all the way up to the giant WrestleMania sign that sits on top of the shelving. Rather than limit the action to a single level, the WWE Archives has a ton of climbable areas that allow you to take the fight to another level, with these areas bringing back memories of older games like SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, where players can quickly climb up an area in seconds rather than slowly climbing up a ladder. Speaking of Here Comes the Pain, 2K25 sees players able to relive a popular feature from that game, as it can now dive off the SmackDown fist, as the upper levels of the archive see the fist from the 2002 arena, which you can climb up and brawl on, throw players off, and then dive off it to the floor. Up next, let's talk gameplay, which on the whole is very similar to recent games, as the core gameplay is still the same. That's not really changed, as you've still got your combos, breakers and dodges. Those are all still there, though in addition, the developers have listened to feedback from the community about what they want to see, and this has led to them bringing back and expanding on some features from past games, the first of which is the chain wrestling feature, which can be triggered by locking up at the beginning of the match. Building on the system that was last seen in 2K20, the new version of the chain wrestling system offers more control, as during the initial lockup, you can choose to switch position, drive your opponent back, or attack them. After selecting an action, the next step is to gain control, which you can do by moving the right thumbstick around until you find the sweet spot and the blue icon turns red, at which point you'll need to hold the stick in that position to fill out the circle. The first person to fill out the circle will gain control of the hold and execute their chosen action, which in this scenario was switch, which switches the hold to another position and then gives players the ability to select a new action. With this system in place, players can easily choose how they want to transition the hold and how long it lasts, as if you want to keep the chain going, they can continue to select the switch option, which will keep you transitioning between different holds. Alternatively, if you want to bring an end to the chain wrestling, then you can choose the attack option, which will see you end the chain with a move. Meanwhile, the drive option will drive your opponents backwards towards the ropes, where you can either let things play out for a clean break or get in a cheap shot. Overall, the new system is very similar to the previous iteration, though the labels now make it a lot clearer on the actions that you take. Another of this year's new gameplay features is the ability to climb the barricades. Should you find yourself at ringside, you can now climb onto the barricade and perform a diving attack. When using this feature, you're free to walk around the barricade and change position, with the motion featuring a unique animation that sees you walk with your arms out to try and keep your balance. In terms of where you can climb the barricade, you can climb up at any point around the ring, as well as a small section at the bottom of the ramp. While climbing the barricade is a small feature, it's a great addition for high flyers, as this gives you another way to use high flying moves at ringside or make use of nearby tables to put your opponent through. In terms of moves, while I couldn't edit this in the build, I was told that barricade moves are assignable, so you can customize any dive attacks in Create a Moveset. Speaking of the barricades, another new feature sees the LED barricades take damage. Should you whip your opponent into them or perform moves against them, you'll notice that the screen on the barricade will begin to flicker and glitch out, this then leaving a glitch effect on the screen. When playing around at ringside, you'll also notice the inclusion of the Prime Hydration Station next to the announce table, which is a fully interactive area, as you can head over to the station and pick up a bottle of Prime to use as a weapon or whip your opponent into it to destroy it. Getting back to the core gameplay, when it comes to pinfalls and submissions, pinfalls remain the same as they did in 2K24, where you have to time your kick out as the bar reaches the safe zone, while submissions see the return of the submission wheel, which is a game of cat and mouse where you have to overlap your opponent's cursor and then hold it there to make them submit. If you're worried about this change, and you would prefer to use the button bashing system, I did speak to the developers about it, and they said that they're not sure which system will be the default, but you'll be able to switch between the submission wheel and the button bashing system in the options menu. Next up, let's talk new match types, as another of this year's big features is the addition of the Intergender Match, which is available to use in all match types except mixed tag team matches, as the gender restrictions have been removed from the selection screen. The removal of the gender restrictions mean that you're now able to have men and women compete in the same match for the first time since SmackDown vs Raw 2009, so if you want to let Rhea get some revenge on Dirty Dom, you're now free to have them go up against each other. On the whole, intergender matches play the same way as any other match, with the only limitation coming in regards to blood, as while 2K25 does allow women to bleed, blood is not supported for intergender matches. As for the other new match types, Bloodline rules wasn't available in this build, and the underground match was playable, but I can't talk about that one just yet, so stay tuned to the channel as I'll cover that in a separate video. Moving on to the 2K Showcase, this year's mode is centered around the Bloodline, though rather than concentrate on the faction and the recent storyline, the Showcase takes a look at the expanded Bloodline and the lineage of the Anoa'i family. In this build of the game, the Showcase featured 3 matches, with these including Roman Reigns vs Seth Rollins from the 2022 Royal Rumble, Nia Jax vs Lyra Valkyria in the final of the Queen of the Ring tournament, and a dream match between the Wild Samoans and the Dudley Boys. Jumping into the first match, I was pleasantly surprised to find that this year's mode includes entrances, as developers have listened to feedback from the community and included accurate entrances for matches, complete with full entrance gear. Once the match began and I completed the first objective, this triggered the first cutscene, which this year is fully rendered in-engine, as there was a lot of negative feedback about the slingshot technology that was used in recent games and how it took players out of the action, and to address that, this year they've gone back to rendering the cutscenes entirely in-engine, which makes a massive difference. Another criticism that they've addressed is the objectives, as in the matches that I played there were a lot more general objectives like inflicting a certain level of damage, and when it did come to performing certain moves, the objective bar includes instructions on how to perform them, so you don't need to keep pausing the game to check how it performs certain actions. Another change to the Showcase was the addition of more time-based objectives, which I found added a level of urgency, as certain objectives task you to perform certain moves or even multiple moves within a set time. Moving on to the second match, we have the Queen of the Ring final between Nia Jax and Lyra Valkyria, which is one of several Showcase matches that allow you to flip the script and change the ending, as rather than have Nia win the match as she did originally, this match includes an alternate ending scene which sees Lyra defeat Jax and be crowned Queen of the Ring. Along with the ability to relive and rewrite history, 2K25 also offers up a new dream match scenario, with the example in this build seeing the Wild Samoans take on the Dudley Boys. Rather than just a bonus match, these dream matches get the full Showcase treatment, as they're introduced in the same manner as the other matches, with Paul Heyman introducing Afa and Sika as the Wild Samoans and then going over their history as a tag team before choosing a team that he thinks will put them to the test, which in this instance turned out to be a team that he knows very well in the Dudley Boys. Despite being portrayed as a dream match, 2K have gone all out with this, and they've even included Captain Lou Albano as the Wild Samoans manager, with all 3 coming out together. The match itself sees you compete in a tables match, which turns out to be a pretty challenging match, as you'll have to complete the objectives while also keeping an eye on your partner to make sure they don't go through a table. Overall, based on the 3 matches that I played, I actually really enjoyed Showcase a lot more than I have in recent years, as I could actually sit there and play the matches without stopping to watch the slingshot videos or checking the pause menu for objectives, as the return of the in-engine cutscenes and better instructions keep you focused on the match. As for the dream matches, initially I thought these may be a bit of a throwaway match, but after playing this one specifically, I really liked it, as the way it's presented and the legends are introduced is a great way to introduce them to those unfamiliar with them, while the decision to have this be a tables match gives some variety to the mode and helps break up a run of singles matches. I also think it's a great way to include legends that may otherwise have been left out, as if there's no one else under contract or available to include, putting them in a dream match is a great way to get them featured. So that's some of the things that were featured in this preview build, though there were additional things that I'll be covering in separate videos that I can't talk about just yet. Overall, based on what I played, I was really impressed with the amount of new and returning features, with a third-person camera and the new Brawl areas being 2 of the standout features, which when combined work incredibly well. As for any problems, I did come across a problem whipping players into the corner, which is something that others also complained about, as even if you carefully directed the stick towards the corner, the whip would go to the ropes, with a similar issue then occurring during one of the Showcase matches, as there's an instance where you have to whip your opponent into the steps, but because it was awkward to whip them diagonally, it took a few attempts to pull this off. Aside from that, the only other things I noticed was a few legs glitching while on platforms due to the smaller areas, and an issue with the crowd animation glitching during Seth's shield entrance, so I passed details of all those things over to the dev team. So that's all for now, but I've got a lot more content coming up, so stay tuned to the channel for that. If you want to check out some new entrances and some new gameplay, you can check out these videos on screen. Until next time though, thank you so much for watching this video, have yourself an awesome day, and I'll catch you later.